So I'm going to start a small video series. I don't know how many installments it's going to be, but it's going to be a few, and it's going to be on getting your garden ready for winter. This is just going to be a quick overview of what it's going to consist of, and um, maybe get some feedback from everybody on what they want to see more of out of what I'm getting ready to talk about. So there's several different things that if you don't, let me say it this way: if you don't do anything with your garden before winter, just in the fall, in the spring, you're going to have weed issues. And it's as simple as that. You're going to have weed issues, and you're probably going to have some compaction and a few other things that you really don't want. But there's steps you need to take, and there's several different things you can do. I'm going to discuss what I do, my favorite way of doing things, good or bad, whatever. People got their own opinions on this and that and the other thing, but it works for me, so that's the way I do it. This year I'm going to do things a little bit different than I normally do, but we're going to discuss it in several different installments, and I want to show you some things that we do and how we do them to get ready for winter. So anyways, let's just get into it and figure it out from here. So the first thing you need to do, no matter what else you do in the fall, to your garden in the fall before winter comes, is you need to, no matter what, you need to make sure you got all the weeds out of it. You got to pull the weeds, you got to cut the weeds off, you got however you get your weeds out. Me personally, I'll pull the weeds that's in the garden beds and what's in the walkways. I use a stirrup hoe. That's all I do. I don't mess with it. And then even in the garden beds, a lot of times I'll use a stirrup hoe. I don't pull every last weed. And sometimes I'll rake them up when I do that. Sometimes I let them in. Normally in the fall, I let them lay. I don't mess with them because they'll rot up over the winter. It's not that big a deal. But you need to get them out before winter, or they're just going to keep growing. They'll grow through the winter, like your dandelions and a lot of that kind of stuff. Grasses and that will grow through the winter months. They won't necessarily stop growing. Even here, we're in Zone 6A, Western Maryland, where our elevation here is about 2,800 feet. We get down. I mean, the last 2 years, actually, we've been pretty cold. It's gotten down to like -10, -12 the last 2 years. And that's only for a day or two. It usually don't get that cold. It normally don't get below zero around here. I mean, it will maybe for a day or something, but normally it don't. So even around here, they'll grow. Weeds will grow. So you got to make sure you get them out of there. One other thing you need to do, if you didn't already start, you should have already started, is cover crops. You can put cover crop seeds in, and there's a bunch of different ones. Me personally, my favorites are winter kill cover crops. That means that when they freeze out, the winter will kill them. Cover crops. That's the kind I prefer, because then that way in the spring you don't have to mess with them. I have used winter rye, and I've also used winter wheat, and they won't cause too many issues, because when it's time for them to seed, you just got to crimp them or till them or cut them or mow them or whatever, and they won't come back. They'll mow them once and they're done. So however you prefer to get rid of them, that's how you prefer to get rid of them. I like using tillage radish is definitely one of my favorites, and like peas or hairy vetch, something that is a legume. I like them three things. This year I got some clover. I think it's crimson clover. I think the winter will kill it, but I'm not 100% sure. Hopefully it does, because it's spreading pretty good. I mean, actually the garden bed looks great with that in there. It looks really pretty. They're not blooming yet, and I don't want them to, because I don't want them dropping seeds. And I tried some buckwheat this late summer, early fall, in some beds, and they are starting to go to seed. I'm hoping that the winter will kill the seeds. If not, I'm going to have issues in the spring. So that's one thing you want to do, is cover crops. You don't have to do cover crops. I normally don't. The last couple of years I've mingled with cover crops a little bit. Before that, I never did. And that's one thing you got to do. Another thing you can do is mulch it, and by mulch it I mean add compost layer to the top. Leaves, you can use leaves. Me personally, I prefer it, but I don't have any compost. I'm going to buy some, but I'm not going to buy enough to do all my gardens. I'm going to buy some because I'm making a new garden. So I'm going to buy some compost for in there, and I'm not going to buy any for the other beds. If I have some left, I'll put it in. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. Because I got cover crops in, so I'm not going to worry about compost as much. I'll make extracts and that kind of thing in the spring with compost that I'm making in the chicken yard. But that's a different video altogether. This is about getting ready for winter. So to get ready for winter, number 1 is get rid of the weeds. Number 2, cover crops. Number 3 is mulch. Me personally, I like started to say you can use. I prefer to use compost in the beds and wood chips in the walkways. I've used leaves in the beds. I never put wood chips in my walkways, and the reason I don't is because they'll end up getting mixed in. Even though we don't till here, your wood chips will still get mixed in with your garden soil, and you don't want it. You don't want the wood chips under the soil layer because it'll take nitrogen to break that wood chips down. So you just want them laid on top like nature drops leaves. It lays on the soil. The only thing that tills the soil in nature is worms and ants and that kind of roly-polies, bugs. That kind of thing goes up, eats it, comes down, poops it out. Goes up, eats it, comes down, poops it out. I don't till. I do use a broad fork. I don't have anything. If you want to till, that's your business. I don't care either way. I'm not preaching to you how to garden. I'm just giving you some suggestions on what to do and how I do things. So I don't till. I do use a fork. I have a broad fork. I don't use it. I just use a pitchfork. To me, it's easier. I can do a bed quicker with a pitchfork than I can a broad fork, mainly because it's rocky around here. So you want to mulch, right? And you want to weed it, cover crops, mulch, or you can mulch and then cover crop, however you want to do it. It doesn't matter. And you want to cover it. You want to make sure your soil's covered for the winter. And whether that's with mulch, whether that's cover crops, or whether that's a tarp. Me personally, I use a tarp in about a month or so, maybe a month and a half, depending on the weather, how the weather ends up being. I will put a tarp over a lot of my garden. I won't put it over all of it. Just because of how I got it laid out this year, I'm not going to tarp the whole entire garden, just parts of it. And the parts that I'm going to cover is the parts that I'm going to cover with a tarp will be where the weeds are the worst, right? That'd be the first place you tarp it, is where the weeds are the worst, because in the wintertime, even though it's cold out, in the wintertime, you still get enough heat. If your tarp's black, you put the black side up, there's still enough heat in there to cook them roots and the weed seeds and all that stuff that lays on the surface. So you'll still cook that out. Also, where I want to do it at, where I'm going to tarp mine at, is where the cover crops are starting to go to seed, like the buckwheat's going to seed. I don't have anything else going to seed right now. I mean, there's some I do have down below, I have some sorghum that's going to seed, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's not dropping yet. I need to actually cut the heads off of that because I'll use that for seed for next year. I want to keep those sorghum seeds. I didn't grow much, just a couple plants because I only had a couple seeds, so I'm going to save those seeds. But So you want to cover crop it, you want to mulch it, you want to cover it up, you want to make sure there's no, and in the spring, if you use a tarp, or even if you don't, if you do these steps in the wintertime when it snows and rains and all that, your raindrops hitting on the soil, and that's what they do. You got to drop big as your finger and it's hitting the soil all the time, right? Raining or snowing or whatever. It's actually compacting that soil. So if you don't have it covered, if you don't have a good layer of mulch down, you don't have a tarp down, you don't have cover crops down, your soil is actually going to get more compacted through the winter. Right now, I'm comfortable with how ours is because I got cover crops and our gardens actually look really good. They're nice and green. They look like springtime. But so those are some definite key things that you want to do. And I will show you some of those things in later installments of this. Truthfully, around here, if you don't have your winter kill cover crops in by mid-September, you're not going to get them in. It's going to be too late. You can still put some winter rye and some winter wheat and that kind of thing in, some grains, cereal grains and that kind of thing you can still put in. They will still germinate, and you can kill those fairly easy in the spring, but you got to let them get almost to seed. If you try to kill them before they flower, You don't want them to go to seed, and you don't want them to get milky because it'll start pulling out of the soil more. Right now, you want roots in the ground to help with the microorganisms and all the stuff in their your soil needs to thrive and grow and whatnot. So you need a living root in your soil. And that's why another reason why I never pull my plants out. I just cut them off. So just keep that all in mind, and in a week or so, I'll come back and show you more on this, and I'll actually show you something instead of just me standing here preaching to you. So hopefully you like this. Hopefully you give me some feedback. I want to know what you do in the winter for your winter prep for your garden. And I will show you more detail of what we do in our garden for winter prep. So, all that being said, make sure you keep people in the Carolinas, Tennessee, that area, in the southern Appalachian Mountains. Make sure you keep those in your thoughts and prayers. Parts of Florida has been devastated as well, so make sure you keep those in your thoughts and prayers. And donate what you can. Donate your time. Donate your goods. Donate some money if you can afford to. If you don't take money out, don't take food off your own table to donate, but just keep them in your prayers. That's a good thing to do too. Is just pray for those people. If you can afford to give, great. I'm going to leave links for all the charities that we donate to and that we approve down below. And we got the names of where we donate to. We got them from people we actually know in the areas that's down there. And they're trusted. Trust me, I wouldn't have gave what we gave, and we gave a fair bit, but we wouldn't have gave what we did if we didn't trust the people we gave it to. And they are boots on the ground, and they're actually helping people down there. So make sure you keep those in your prayers. Give what you can give, and everything. So, and there won't be nothing else in the show notes except those organizations. And that my next bunch of videos, that's how I'm going to just keep it that way. I'm not going to promote myself. I could care less about that. I just want to make sure the people down in that part of the world is taken care of. So that's going to wrap it up. Let me know what y'all think. We'll meet again. Take care and God bless.